Okay, this is a video about how to update your host image and redeploy it to your host pool. So the first thing you're going to need to do is update your host image. So that usually means you need to add a piece of software or change something in the image. So you're going to come in, pick the company you want to work in. We're going to use our test account. When you click on the Assets tab, here you have all the things that are associated to a host pool. So just to give you a quick overview, if you're using the fabric style of image, which is just a managed image, you don't have to have an image gallery. It just uses an image and a sysprep, and it has a process that will automate recreating those. You are more than welcome to use the image gallery and create and version your own images. If you want to do that, you do not need a sysprep, you do not need a template. All you need is an image for your host pool, and you set a simple flag here that says, hey, I'm using a custom image. Check that checkbox. And then this is where you put the path in your tenant to whichever version in your image gallery that you're using that you want to use. Should you want to come update that version number, say, to the next image, like 101, Fabrics will not allow you to edit things when they're created. So if you just mark it uncreated, click Save, refresh your assets page, come back in, you can see that you can now edit it. So you can mark that as the version you want and say you just created version number 1, and click Save. And that will now, as you see here, have saved your update to version number 1. I'm going to get rid of that because we're going to do a regular fabric style image, but that's how you would use a custom image. I'm going to mark that created again just to reset it. So if you're using a fabric style image, the way that this works is there is what we call a host template. Host template is where you go make any updates you need to make. That is linked to a sysprep machine, so each time you create a new image, it basically clones the template, so the template lives and stays and is valid for you to come back into again. And then once it clones it, it runs sysprep on there and then creates a new host image that's then tested. So the first step is basically to go into your template and update it. So this is your template here. The first thing we're going to do is say, okay, we're going to start the template. And then you will go into it in Azure. If you use Bastion, log into it with Bastion. If you use some RDP method or whatever your way of doing it is, but right here is a link to get to it to log in. So if I copy that link, paste it into my browser, it'll ask me to log in to whatever that tenant is. So if I pick the right tenant, it will take me directly to that particular VM. It also takes me to the login page. I can put my login information in, click connect. Bastion will connect me to that machine. Once it's logged in, whatever the activity was that you needed to do to update the image, you can then do. That could be, say, adding a piece of software, removing a piece of software, maybe updating to a new version of the software. In our case, we're just going to do something very simple. We're going to say, okay, well, the users don't want this Adobe Acrobat icon showing up on their screen, so we're basically going to come in here and we're going to click delete on that so that we remove it. Maybe they didn't like the Microsoft Edge one either. We're going to delete that one. And then I'm going to throw them away. Whenever you come in, we always recommend that you run Windows updates. They can cause sysprep to hang, so you come into the Windows updates, click check for updates. There you can see it found one, so it's installing it. Once it's done, we'll check for updates again. No new updates, so close that. Now, whenever you're done every single time, we provide 2 different cleanup scripts that help to clean up before you sysprep your machine. I have them both located here in this folder. I'm going to run PowerShell ISE just so we can show you the contents of both of those. I'm going to do File Open, and we'll grab them both. So the normal script that we recommend that you run each time, we always recommend you use the local admin account. You can see what it's going to do first is reset the sysprep flags, and it's going to clear any logs that were on there. It will force a Windows update similar to what we just did. We just think it's a good policy to manually do it so you can see if there were any pending. And then the last step, and this one's important, is it will remove any provisioned Apex packages that were installed while you were working on the machine. Sysprep tends to have problems making it through with Apex packages that get provisioned, so this will effectively remove all the ones that were installed while you're there. If you've used a template for a long time and you have problems with it, this is a bit more in-depth cleanup script. We're not going to run this one this time just because it takes longer, but it will stop Windows Update, clear any Windows Updates cache so that you don't have any hung Windows Updates. It runs SCF scan now to check, and then DISM to check the image, see if there's any files that need cleaned up. It'll run the CBS to clean up the registry keys. And when it's done, it'll reset your Windows Update services and you're ready to go. So if you need a little bit deeper clean, we recommend you run this one and then the post-update script. And you do that each time you make an update. So now I'm just going to come here and execute that script, say run with PowerShell. You'll see it'll open up. You may see some errors. It's not a big deal. Like there are files, it's trying to delete something, or there's a folder that it's looking for is not there. That's the purpose of it, so it was already probably done. You can see it checks no Windows updates, so then it'll start to remove provision packages. Some of those are also going to throw an error because some of them are part of the operating system, and it won't let you delete them. But as long as you're getting a good majority in the list up here, that number will vary depending on how long you've been in the machine and how much has been provisioned. Once it completes, you'll see that the window goes away. We're going to close that, and then we just want to make sure that we log out correctly. So you come here to your name, sign out, and that'll make sure that your session gets cleared. Close that window. So now you're done making your update. So now we're going to come back to Fabrics. In Fabrics, again, we have this path of things from the template we were just editing to an image. If we go in and look at each one of these, we can see that they are chained together. So if I open the sysprep has a link to the template that it uses, that test template that we were just editing. And then the image has a link inside its creation properties to that sysprep machine. And then as you can see, that this image is part of that host pool. So that kind of provides the path from a template up to an image. Now, once you've updated your image, you want to come back here. If you hover over here, there's this restore icon, and then there's also a redeploy icon. So restoring an icon, we'll show this as well real quick. If I click on that icon, it will go and get me all of the backups that are available for this image. And then you can store any number of backups that you want, and that's in under backup optimization for the image. So say you wanted to keep 5 copies of that image, so each time you create a new one, Fabrics is going to create a version of it. You just change that number to 5, click Save. We want to redeploy this. And the deployments are created under deployments. Fabrics creates its own deployments, and you can create them to do things you need to do as well. But we're going to go in here and clear out this previous one just so it's clean, so that what we see is what's been created. So I come back here now, you're on the image, and we're going to select that option to redeploy. It will give you a message that said, are you sure you want to redeploy this image? This action is going to remove the sysprep and the image and regenerate them from the host template that you just updated, which we do want to do. So we click OK. You'll get a message that says that redeployment is created and sent successfully. And then if we come in here, you'll now see there is a deletion deployment. And the deletion says, hey, delete the sysprep and delete the host image. And then it says create the sysprep and create the host image. And then if we go into the logs, you can see, okay, it's now working on deleting the host image and deleting the sysprep. And then as that process works its way along in Azure, this will update. So you can see there part of the sysprep deletion has occurred. There you go, the image has been deleted as well. So these will update as Azure responds to Fabrics. So if you want to see the details of one of these, you can see, okay, here's the PowerShell command that was sent to Azure. Here's the response that was received from that command. And then it starts working on the next one. You can see, okay, it's now also gotten responses back from Azure that, okay, this sysprep was deleted, the image was deleted. So now you can see that everything's been updated on the sysprep deletion, all the different steps that are needed. Again, there's the actual commands sent and the responses received. And then now it's working on the sysprep recreation. And again, you can follow along here and see, okay, here's all the commands being sent. But you can also see the VM being created in Azure. So it stopped the template, it got a template, it created snapshots, it created a disk, and now it's probably working on creating that VM. Come back here and give it a refresh. Well, not quite yet. Created a new network interface card for it. And there you go. It shows as creating. So once that then creates, you'll see a response come back from Azure. There you go. So here's the created message, and that tells Fabrics, okay, the sysprep's created, you can now kick off creating the host image. And again, the steps that it logs will be shown here. And to go back to the deployments tab, since we already deleted all of those things, you can also see the progress in the deployments. So here's your deletion. You can see that it is completed and it was time stamped when it was completed, but that the creation hasn't completed yet. It's still in process. On image creates, usually it takes between maybe 3 and 10 minutes to create. Most of that time is just the duration of the sysprep run on that temporary sysprep machine. Once sysprep has run successfully, it bundles it up into an Azure managed image. Alright, we took a little break while that was finishing up, as you can see here, between when it started the image at 3:59 and when that was created successfully was 4:06, so we had about 7 minutes. But you can see then, once that happens, Fabrics then will do a test of that. So it's trying to create an actual host and verify that that image is good. So again, you can see here you have an image created, various steps that are needed to do so, and part of that is the confirmation that, okay, we created a host virtual machine. Again, if we go to the deployments, you can see additional progress. This one, the creation is now completed and time-stamped, and because it needed to test that image, you can see there's a host image test, and the hosts are all just sort of time-stamped, so you know when it's testing a host, it's a host with a timestamp afterward. That's 25 is the year, 10 is the month, 27 is the day, and then the hour and the minute. So if you come back in here now, we'll see in the logs it's waiting for it to create. If we go back into our subscription and click refresh, you can see that we have that host test right here being created. And again, the amount of time that it takes to create a host varies greatly. It depends on the type of VM you're using, the SKU, the location, how busy Azure is in that location. Sometimes hosts will create in as little as 2 to 3 minutes, and sometimes it'll take half an hour. So how long it takes is dependent on all those things. While it's working away, we'll take another break and then come back to finish this up. Okay, we're back after that break. As you can see, we now have a host configuration event that gets kicked off. Azure responded that that host had been created successfully, and so Fabrics will begin configuring it as a host. Click that to update it. You can see steps again that are filling in. Created the boot diagnostics, put it in the domain, got a registration token for the host pool, and then as it finishes all those steps, again, you can follow along here. There, before I refresh this, it was still creating. So now if I refresh that, we can see that the machine is now running, and you can also see that it's going to test it into the host pool itself. So if we go to host pools, and select that host pool. There's our 2 current session hosts, which matches if we go to our assets page and select hosts. Here's our test AVD1-0 and test AVD1-1. And those are our 2 current hosts in the host pool. Now, if we come back here, and we go back to the logs, as it completes the steps, you can see it installed the infra agent. There's 2 different drivers that run on a host for Microsoft host pool, infra agent and bootloader. And the bootloader is what puts it into the host pool, and that's what it's working on now, because that's the second step after the infra agent. So if we come back here, we should see it pop into the host pool shortly. Come on. Still waiting for it to finish. There you go. So the bootloader has loaded successfully, which puts that host with the test date stamp into the logs. So when it's done configuring all that, it will test it. It's almost done. Added any tags to it that you had specified. Pardon me. And then, so here's an example of a failure. When it went to test that host, it got an error, which means that there's something wrong with that host, even though it seemed to have been successful. When that happens, it's going to leave this host asset here. It won't remove it from Fabrics. It's also going to leave that host asset in the host pool here. That will remain there. And it's going to leave that host asset as a VM, which is, oops. Right there. And it will leave them there because for whatever reason it's bad and you might need to get into that machine, and it will be there for you to take a look at. You can also see that the deployment is completed, so all of these have been completed. Now that we showed you what a failed host image update looks like, we'll try to show you what the successful image looks like. So we restarted that deployment again. Again, you can see that it's now been created in Azure. Configuration has started. Similarly with the deployments, the verification has been successful. The host is running in Azure, and if we go to the host pool again, we'll see our two current hosts. One is running and available, and the other one's deallocated and shut down. And that matches our current hosts in our host pool. Again, you can see some of the steps. It's got the boot diagnostics action detail once they complete. Okay, one last bit to get back to the end of this, showing you what a successful configuration looks like. Here was the creation. We started at 459. Configured at 510, you can see the infrastructure agent, the boot agent, and enabling of the host, and then you'll get a big green success that looks like this. Now, when you get a success, Fabrics will not leave the host that it was testing in the host pool. It will then delete it automatically. So you'll see yet another deployment get created to delete the test, and you will see that test come along in the logs until it gets archived. Once it's deleted, it will show up as archived, and then that asset that was a test will be removed from your list of hosts as well. So that's showing you both a failure when you're updating your host image for the host test part of it as well as the success. There is a third state which is much, much more difficult to show, and that's if your host image has so many problems that Azure never actually fires an event. Probably after about an hour, Fabrics will clean up your open deployment and your host test will just be sitting there. And it's because when the VM was created in Azure, it never even fired an event to let you know that it was bad. That's more rare.